Am I the a-hole for kicking my girlfriend out after she called me a crybaby for crying over my dead niece? I met my now ex-girlfriend 4 years ago in college. Until now, she seemed like the type of woman I would want to marry, extremely kind, genuine, and genuinely a joy to be around. My big sister and her husband had a daughter at the beginning of our relationship. I couldn't be more happy to be an uncle. She was the cutest thing in the world to me. I tried to be that cool uncle to her and would always try to find time for her. My sister would regularly bring her over to my place for me to babysit when she had something going on. My girlfriend, to my knowledge, also seemed to get along fine with her and wouldn't be against babysitting her with me. The best moment I shared with her was when my sister showed me a drawing my niece made about me in kindergarten. I was literally on the verge of tears seeing that. A year ago, my world turned upside down when my sister gave me a call crying. That one sentence still rings in my head from time to time. She told me she was diagnosed with leukemia. To say I was devastated would be an understatement. The past year was really tough for all of us. I spent most of my free time with my sister and brother-in-law in the hospital. Seeing that poor girl with all those tubes attached to her really broke my heart. I would regularly bring over balloons and make those balloons animal for her. I learned how to make those while working at a carnival when I was young. As a result, I spent less time with my girlfriend. She seemed like she understood until her cancer grew worse. From Saturday to Sunday, I was either in the hospital or was drinking myself to sleep. One day, my girlfriend just seemed to ignore me on our 3-year anniversary. I brought her flowers, a cake, and made her a card. My girlfriend, on the other hand, didn't get me anything. I pressed her about it, and that's when she said something that probably was a sign of what was to come. She just told me, "Well, it doesn't seem like you care, so why should I get you something for someone who cares more about a child that's going to die anyway?" I don't know what she was expecting. Long story short, I threatened to kick her out and tell everyone I knew, including my sister, is a close friend of hers, what she just told me. She apologized and told me she wasn't thinking straight and something like this would never happen again. I eventually forgave her and we moved on. My niece passed away last week and it's been the worst period of my life. I've basically been crying myself to sleep every day and have been spending a lot of time with my sister to console her. Something that caught me off guard though is that my girlfriend seemed a bit too happy at the news of her passing. She just smiled and said, "I'm so happy she isn't suffering anymore and is in a much better place now," with a big grin on her face. Yesterday, I overheard her talking with one of her friends over the phone. I just came home from work and I guess she didn't hear me walk in. I just heard her, "A real man wouldn't cry unless it's his child." That caught me off guard and I kept listening. She said more awful things about me being a crybaby and how I shouldn't be so attached to a kid that isn't mine and so on. I loudly coughed to get her attention and just saw the life draining from her face. She tried the whole "let me explain" BS, and I just told her to pack what's needed and I'll get her dad to come pick her up. After a solid hour of begging, she finally gave up and packed her things into a suitcase. Before leaving, she tried spitting at me, but just ended up spitting on herself. Her mom called me a few hours later, begging me to give her a second chance. I know I shouldn't have said this, but I just told her to go F herself and her mentally unstable daughter. I basically emptied half a bottle of Jack Daniels that night and went to bed. I woke up the next day with text from my sister. She told me my ex told her everything that happened, understood me kicking her out, but I should consider giving her a second chance. She told me my ex seemed sincere in her apology to her. She asked what Lily would want my niece. Not gonna lie, that kinda broke me. My niece loved my girlfriend and would always run to her and ask her to play Barbie with her. I feel like I shouldn't be upset if my sister forgave her, but at the same time, I feel hurt by her calling me a crybaby. Before the diagnosis, I've never really cried in front of her, and her comments hurt me deeply. I feel like I can never open up to anyone again, let alone her. Am I being irrational here? Absolutely, positively not. Like, she just keeps saying worse and worse and worse comments and things. Why would you forgive her? You shouldn't forgive her the first time she said, "Oh, I don't care about our anniversary because you seem to care more about a child that's going to be dead anyways." Like, what? Am I the a-hole for confronting my brother-in-law for allowing his daughter to get so out of shape she can't even walk a half mile without needing a rest break? My brother-in-law, husband's brother, is a single father to my niece Cindy. For some context, I've always made a point to encourage my kids to be active and have a good relationship with exercise. Bill isn't the same way with Cindy. My daughter bought Cindy a pair of skates from her birthday so they could go together, but Cindy tried once, failed too much, and lost interest. She mostly likes to play video games at home and spends a lot of time in chat rooms. And it's fine to have hobbies like that, don't get me wrong. But here's the problem. When we the girls were out shopping a few weeks ago, we were going to take a break and grab lunch at a cafe in the shopping center. It was a half a mile walk on a gorgeous spring day, and Sydney couldn't do it. She needed to sit down and take a break. I did not make a big deal out of it to Cindy, and we just hung out with her. I pulled Bill aside after and told him what happened. He didn't see the issue. I told him that she's only 14. She shouldn't have any trouble walking, that I'm worried she's going to develop health issues or it's going to get worse. He got very defensive and accused me of saying he's a bad parent. I told him no, he's not a bad parent, but that it's alarming that his daughter can walk a half a mile and that she might need to see a doctor. He got even angrier and said that I was overstepping and to back off. I put my hands up and just said, okay, I won't say anything more, and left. I know how it feels to have your parenting criticized, so I understand why he got defensive. But was I truly so out of line to express concern for my niece? I wasn't talking about forcing her into after school sports and running laps. That's a great way to make a kid hate exercise. But I fear for things getting worse and her not being able to climb stairs or something in the future. And then OP said in the edit that the child isn't overweight by any, like the child isn't overweight, they're not fat. Anyways, I don't think OP was wrong. At the end of the day, it's not like she yelled at the daughter, she embarrassed the daughter, she body shamed the daughter. She didn't really say anything to her niece. She let the niece be her, and they were letting her take breaks, and they left her alone, and she pulled the father aside. At the end of the day, if you're a family, it's good to tell each other, and remind each other of things. Like, that's what being a family is about. If my sister or one of my siblings sees something wrong with my child and they say, hey, I think this is what's wrong with your child, you may want to fix that or you may want to pay attention to it. That's not a dig on my parenting. Like, I feel like people have such big prides and egos that they use their pride and ego for the worst. Like, someone telling you, a family member who just is trying to, like, I know when it comes to, like, people, family members, aunties and uncles, the way they talk about kids' body types and kids' body shapes, like, it's disgusting a lot of the times. But Opie didn't seem like she meant any harm. She just said, hey, I feel like my niece is having some health issues. She's not overweight, so maybe she just needs. And just because somebody's skinny doesn't necessarily mean that they're healthy. If you're not active, you're not working out, you're not running, you're not walking around, you're just eating junk food and you're sitting down all day, that and you're skinny, that doesn't mean you're healthy. Plus, there's this lady on TikTok that feeds her children, her little daughter, donuts for breakfast. Kids have the right. Kids are really big responsibility, and you need to take care of them each way you can. And if someone just tells you something, then just take it. Like, there's no reason for someone to be upset just because they told you, hey, your daughter isn't healthy and she needs to go see a doctor. She didn't call your daughter names. She didn't say anything bad about the daughter. She didn't say anything bad about you. She was just trying to bring attention to the child's health issues. And a 14-year-old girl who's not fat or who's not overweight, not being able to walk a half a mile on a spring day is a bit concerning.